We have a really exciting program prepared for you. So first, I'm going to provide you with a little history on the Michael R. Schwaid Bicyclist of the Year Award. And then next, we're honored to have Ken McLeod here with the League of American Bicyclists. Following Ken, Karen Kress with the Tampa Downtown Partnership is going to share some of the local bike scene there and talk about some of her projects. And after Karen, we'll present the 2022 award to Julie Henning. Bob Griendling will provide an introduction to the award. Then we'll finish up with a panel discussion from all of the past award recipients. We're going to invite them to turn their cameras on and be part of a really great discussion. So we hope you stay around for the entire ceremony. Next slide. So the Michael R. Schwaid Bicyclist of the Year is awarded to a bicyclist showing courage and resilience and serves as a role model for other bicyclists. The first Bicyclist of the Year was presented to Michael Schwaid from Odessa, and he commuted daily to his job at the Pinellas County Courthouse. He actually earned national recognition from the League of American Bicyclists for surpassing 20,000 commute miles. And I knew Michael personally, and he was very proud of that accomplishment and recognition. He was known by his friends and fellow bicyclists as Michael on Bicycle. And unfortunately, Michael passed away from natural causes on September 27th, 2017. Michael was our friend. He was an inspiration to bicyclists everywhere, and he always had a smile to share and a passionate word to say about bicycle safety and his experiences. Many know that Michael endured a long recovery after a motorist with a blood alcohol level more than 3 times the legal limit crashed into him on March 30th, 2016. And he was commuting on his bike when this crash occurred. Lesser known, maybe that was his great determination to reclaim his place on the road that drove his recovery. And with the help of his family, he got there. Then Mayor Jane Castor presented Michael with the 2017 Bicyclist of the Year Award for his courage and resilience. And with the support of the Schwaid family, who is here virtually with us tonight, we named that award Michael R. Schwaid Bicyclist of the Year in his honor. And ever since, we've been awarding bicyclists each year. So I want to put out a very special thanks to the Schwaid family for their support. And each year we'll have new recipients added to a perpetual bronze plaque that's on display here at the Center for Urban Transportation Research. So if you're ever on the campus of USF, please stop by our lobby and you can view that plaque and all of the names for our Bicyclist of the Year. Okay, next slide. And we just wanted to share some of the photos. Each year, Michael's friends and Steve Brown, who's here, and you'll meet him a little bit later, put on a memorial ride. And these are some of the photos from that ride. And again, we're looking forward to announcing the 2023 memorial ride, which will take place next year. Okay, so with that background, we're excited. We've invited Ken McLeod to speak with us tonight. And he is with the League of American Bicyclists. And a little bit about Ken. He leads policy initiatives to improve bicycle safety. He manages the Bicycle Friendly State program and provides technical assistance to people and groups working on state and local initiatives. His goals are to promote policies that take advantage of one of the best technologies ever invented, the bicycle, and contribute to a thriving bicycle advocacy community and help people see the future where a bicycle-friendly America exists for everyone. Ken joined the League in 2012 after graduating from William & Mary Law School, and he's a licensed attorney in the state of Virginia. He has a bachelor's degree from Pomona College in Claremont, California. And lastly, when he's not at the League, you can find him serving as chair of the Roanoke Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, doing projects around his 100-year-old house and climbing the Blue Ridge Mountains on his bike. So Ken, we consider you a friend, especially those of us here in the Tampa Bay area. And so we'd like to welcome you, and I'll turn the time over to you.
Yeah, Julie, thank you for that introduction, and thank you for hosting this event today. Going to provide a overview of what's happening in cycling in the nation and kind of where we can improve cycling going forward. So the League of American Bicyclists has been around since 1880. Our mission is to lead the movement to create a bicycle-friendly Bicycle-Friendly America for Everyone. And really for us, that's prioritizing equity, the just and fair inclusion into a society in which everyone can participate and prosper. Some of our recent reports have focused on how we can reach more diverse audiences with the messages about safe cycling, and how we can build bike networks that are safe for everyone, prioritizing separation, slower speeds, safer facilities that are connected to each other and allow people to get around their communities. Unfortunately, the United States really is in a time of traffic safety crisis. We used to be a leader in traffic safety internationally, but about a decade ago, we were middle of the pack, and now we are right near the bottom when you look at countries that are similarly wealthy, similarly developed, countries that are in organizations like the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which includes many European countries. And in that data from the OECD in 2020, for countries with over 5 million people, we were dead last. So it really is a crisis that we need to address and we need to do better. People who are biking and people who are walking have really borne the brunt of our traffic safety issues in the United States. And while many countries, especially in Europe, saw record decreases in traffic violence and traffic deaths during COVID, the United States saw historic increases. So we are diverging from similar nations in a way that is very worrying and distressing and worthy of action. When we break it down from the national level to state by state, you can see that some states do okay and outperform those kind of peer countries. Florida does not. It is closer towards the top of the United States than it is to most of the peer countries. When we look at traffic deaths per capita, the United States overall is between 2 and 5 times more dangerous than peer countries. And Florida is probably in that, 2 to 4 times range. Looking specifically at Florida, it is notable that there are very high rates for bicyclist fatalities. It is the #1 worst state in per capita fatality rate. And it's really astonishing to see that there's been a 105% increase since 2010 to 2020. One of the things that stood out to me when I looked at Florida's data preparing for this webinar is that there is a very low rate of speeding involved fatalities according to data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Only 3% of cyclist deaths in Florida involve speeding, but the most common speed limit for cyclist deaths by far is 45 miles per hour. So to me, that indicates that there are many high-speed roads in Florida that are either unavoidable or commonly used, but probably lack safe facilities. So that's kind of the issue that we are facing. Those high speeds without safe facilities create dangerous situations that lead to our traffic violence. The approach that the US DOT has taken to deal with this traffic safety crisis, Secretary Pete Buttigieg acknowledged that it was a crisis earlier this year and published something called the National Roadway Safety Strategy. And it said we should implement what is called a safe system approach, which is creating safety through engineering, through multiple layers of systems that make it harder for people to die on our roadways. And one of those principles is that humans are vulnerable and we should design for safer speeds. Specifically, they called out kind of the ability to set lower speed limits. And we think that 20 miles per hour is plenty. It is a good speed limit. That means less than 10% of people hit at that speed will be killed. It has been widely implemented in other countries. It has been recommended by the World Health Organization since 2017, and we're excited to see the United States hopefully embrace it as well. Unfortunately, in most states, 20 miles per hour is not a common speed limit. Most states have a default urban speed limit of around 30 miles per hour. That's true in Florida as well with business districts. So we have a lot of work to do to change that and to implement slower speeds that can save lives. We are in a good situation nationally, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, to act on the safe system approach and creating safer roadways. Transportation alternatives funding is the most common federal source of funding for biking and walking projects, and it has been since it was created in 1991. And over the next 5 years, we are going to spend half as much on transportation alternatives as we have spent since 1992. So that 30-year period of spending, we're going to spend half as much of that in the next 5 years as we have in the last 30. So that's a big investment. Florida, in its annual report on transportation alternatives program, had about $121 million of projects that it was unable to fund last year. But Florida has really done a great job of investing in biking and walking projects compared to other states, spending over $100 million in federal funds last year. Yeah. We are also excited about a big change to the Highway Safety Improvement Program, which is about a $2 billion program nationwide. And one of the rules that the bipartisan infrastructure law included is that states where 50% or more of traffic fatalities are people biking and walking, they have to spend 15% or more of their Highway Safety Improvement Program funds on biking and walking safety projects. Now, Florida, unlike many other states, already is spending some Highway Safety Improvement Program funds on biking and walking safety. There's maybe less than a dozen states that have done so over the last several years. So credit to Florida for doing that. And this rule will apply to Florida and probably make Florida spend an additional $6 million on bicycle and pedestrian safety. There were also some changes to make new infrastructure eligible for this funding, included separated intersections and separated bike lanes. So we're excited to see states like Florida implement those provisions. Another thing I want to highlight from the bipartisan infrastructure law is non-motorized safety grants. This isn't federal funding for roadways. This is federal funding for programs that support traffic safety culture, public service announcements, enforcement, things like that. One of the things that we are excited about is that there was a change in eligibility that allows it to fund demonstration projects to educate the public about bicycle infrastructure. So if you want to do a pop-up protected bike lane in a community that hasn't seen a protected bike lane before, this can now fund that. And Florida receives over $1 million for these grants each year. So we're excited to see how states react to that and hope that it is useful to Florida and other states to show the power of infrastructure for safer roads. Another change that was made in the bipartisan infrastructure law was an increase to this program called the Racial Profiling Prohibition Grant Program, sometimes called the Racial Profiling Data Collection Program. This is something that Florida received a grant for in 2017, but hasn't received one since. And that's really interesting timing to me, because in 2016, the Department of Justice issued a report about policing of bicyclists in Tampa that found that the policing approach that they were using created racial disparities without improving bicyclist safety. So this is something that can support that type of data collection and that kind of analysis, and hopefully improvements to any enforcement programs that are happening to make sure that they are improving bicyclist safety and not creating racial disparities. So I would really encourage Florida to go after this funding again, as they did in 2017. And as Julie said in the intro, I run our Bicycle Friendly State program. Florida has been improving somewhat consistently in our program since 2013, shortly after I joined. Total coincidence on that timing. But Florida is currently number 8, and we really give Florida a lot of credit for investing in biking and walking more than other states. It has the 6th highest rank of federal funding per capita. It does have those traffic safety problems, but it is something that agencies like Florida DOT have recognized, talk a lot about, have adopted plans for. so we're hopeful to see Florida continue to improve, continue to make that effort, and we'll see if they can continue to increase their ranking over the next few years. And it's also really exciting to see that Tampa and the Tampa area has really been doing a lot to lead in supporting bicycling. So Tampa has the most bicycle-friendly businesses of any community in the United States, and St. Petersburg is number 3. Both of them are bicycle-friendly communities, with Tampa being a bronze and St. Petersburg being silver. Tampa should renew soon, so we'll look forward to that application and that next award level, maybe. And just in closing, leadership really is needed to deal with the traffic safety crisis, to reverse these trends where there have been more traffic deaths. We have the opportunity with a historic federal investment to make changes, and hopefully with your state and local advocacy, we will make that shift that really gives us a more sustainable approach to safety with that safe system approach, where we are choosing safer speeds, we are building for safety at higher speeds if we have to have higher speed roads, creating that separation, creating that place for people to bike safely is incredibly important. So that's kind of my overview, and my charge to you: take advantage of the federal funding that is available, act now, work with your agencies to implement it, and hopefully we'll have a much better 2023 for traffic safety than we had a 2022.
Julie, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So again, Ken, that was a great presentation, and just excited to hear that we're number 8 on the list, and we're first for bicycle friendly businesses and first and third in 2 of our locations. And so we do have 2 questions, Ken. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions and then we'll turn it over to Karen. So our first question we have is, across the country, what emphasis is being put on education with regards to vulnerable road users and the loss of drivers' education in schools? Our youth is our future, and we need to ensure they know the rules of the road, which includes bicycle and pedestrian laws.
Yeah, so that's actually something we highlighted on Florida's Bicycle Friendly State Report Card, is that Florida has, I believe they adopted a law to require at least 2 questions about bicycle and pedestrian safety in their driver education. And we've seen several states do that. I know Illinois and New Jersey have done that in recent years. And so we're excited to see more states do that, making sure that drivers are educated about bicyclist and pedestrian safety. That's on the driver's test. For many people, they took their driver's test quite a while ago. So we also promote states having an emphasis area in bicyclist safety, which means they're more likely to have educational programming for all ages, public service announcements related to bicycling. And I think 35 states currently have that emphasis area, which is somewhat shocking to me, is much higher than the states that prioritize speeding as an emphasis area, which only 19 states do that. So our advocacy has been effective in getting more states to see that as a priority, and that's been good.
Great. Yes, we do have a really great FDOT teen traffic safety education program here in the Tampa Bay area. So we go out to each high school and we provide kind of a really great presentation in those driver's ed classes. So that's something we're proud of in this area. Another question, so we do have quite a few 45-mile-per-hour roads here that bicyclists ride on. What sort of safe facilities do you recommend for those types of higher speed roads? Is there a safer facility you recommend, or something we can pass along for those roads?
Most bicycle facility selection guidance that I've seen is that when you're looking at a 45-mile-per-hour road, you really need a separated facility for safety. So that's going to be something with a solid bollard, hopefully, that provides an actual physical barrier to vehicles getting into the space that bicyclists are occupying. that's going to be concrete, hopefully, and physically stop those vehicles from running over people, or in the worst case scenario, deflecting the vehicle, slowing it down somewhat, and making a crash less injurious or less deadly if a crash happens. And that's kind of the safe system approach's methodology. If you can reduce the conflict by separating people, that's great. If a crash is going to happen, if you can reduce those forces that the person has to absorb, that's what you need to do to make sure that people are safe.
Great, thank you so much for that. Okay, you may have a few more questions in the Q&A that you're welcome to answer by typing in the answer, Ken, if you have time. But again, I just want to thank you. That was an excellent presentation, and we all look forward to working more with the League and moving our area forward. So again, thank you very much, Ken, for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
So now we're going to move along to Karen Kress. And so Karen, welcome. And a little background on Karen. Karen serves as the Director of Transportation Planning at the Tampa Downtown Partnership. And in her role, Karen manages all aspects of transportation, parking, and access throughout downtown Tampa. She's a true advocate for transit and transportation. And she also leads the Tampa Downtown Partnership's Transportation and Urban Design Committees, its parking task force. Karen has been successful in advocating for and bringing transportation options such as Coast Bike Share, Zipcar, Car Share, and the Downtowner, which was an app-based electric ride service. Karen was honored by the Suncoast chapter of the American Planning Association Planner of the Year twice, and she was also appointed as a planning commissioner by the city of Tampa. And I do want to say she's also something else for the Bike League. She is a certified league cycling instructor, and she's able to teach bike safety classes in our area. So I'll turn the time over to you, Karen, and we're looking forward to hearing what's going on in downtown Tampa.
Thank you, Julie. And a shout out back to Julie. She, Ken talked about the leadership that's needed in this area, and Julie is among the top people who are providing that. So yeah, Julie just asked me if I could kind of give a glimpse into some of the, some of the progress we're making in Tampa. And since I work with the Tampa Downtown Partnership, I'm going to focus mainly on downtown Tampa. For those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, we are a nonprofit that has basically a contract with the city to help manage downtown. So we do a lot of advocacy and some implementation of programs. For those of you in Tampa, this is our legally defined boundaries. I bet every single one of you would have a different definition of where is downtown Tampa. So this is where downtown Tampa is according to us. So I pulled some stats from the city. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I thought you might want to see some of the progress that the city has made, and then we'll talk a little bit later about kind of what's next. And then we give a presentation to people who are in downtown, either working or living, called the Downtown Download. We go through a variety of kind of programs, resources, et cetera, available. And I always have kind of a section on transportation and just talk about the different modes that we currently have on offer. My full-time job is working on transportation and planning issues in downtown. This is a photo from one of our group bike to work rides. So first I wanted to start with some of the infrastructure that we've done. COVID presented some, kind of silver lining opportunities where we're able to kind of get out and maybe take advantage of some calmer roads and do some programs. This one was it's a national program called Walk Your City. So we piloted this in the Channel District, and we put out probably, I think, somewhere between 20 and 30 signs that just encourage people to understand that you can walk pretty much anywhere you need to get to within a few minutes. And then you had that QR code that showed you all of the different turn-by-turn instructions, and then the different restaurants, et cetera, that were on offer. We also offer free guided walking tours in our downtown, the first and third Fridays of the month. We follow the school year. Basically, we take the summers off when it's hot and rainy. And then we always try to incorporate some kind of pedestrian safety tips as part of that. We were able to turn some parking spaces into kind of hangout spaces. We had 4 of them out there during COVID. We are down to 2 that made sense in permanent locations. And one of them, I was able to find this young man who needed his Eagle Scout badge. So he built a little free library for me. So that was something I'd always kind of had on my to-do list for many years. We also partnered with the city on doing some intersection murals in our downtown. So we ended up, we have 4 intersection murals currently. You can see a couple of them here. One is our Pride mural in Tampa Heights, and the one on the right is our Black Lives Matter mural. We did a fun project. It's been very interesting to partner with artists on transportation projects. And this one is about 20 different places on Ashley Drive, which is kind of our grand boulevard. We have ground murals painted basically anywhere a vehicle shouldn't be, and reclaiming some pedestrian space. And then we went back and we put in some flexible delineators, the posts that you see, and we did some planters at the key intersections. We did a similar project on K Street, which is just in the Tampa Heights area. This is a local street that ends up being kind of an on-ramp to the Interstate 275. So we did the same type of concept. The city worked with us to get the engineering plans drawn up, and we continue to talk with FDOT about this intersection and trying to better accommodate a pedestrian crossing there. We've also done an inventory of where all of the bike parking is, and I need to give a shout out to the Florida Department of Transportation District 7. Over the years, I have applied for many grants to allow us to purchase bike racks and put them all over. So we're trying to at least take care of that end of the bike issues. We also went and worked with the city to identify places in all of the downtown city garages where we could add some bicycle parking. The red circles in the photo on the left are security cameras. We try to get them kind of front and center, not necessarily obviously meant for the people who are driving and parking in the garages. This is just, we put them right at exits or entrances where they're visible from the street. So we have covered somewhat secure parking. And then again, partnered with artists to beautify it as much as we could. Like you probably have micromobility invading your city. I went the other day and walked 2 blocks and found all the photos I needed of what we don't want to have. I'm working on a pilot project right now with a grant from the Florida Department of Transportation again, working with the city. They created a permit process for me. So basically we're trying to add more parking. We're trying not to displace car parking and just take advantage of some of the end caps that are available on the on-street parking row, and just add more bike parking available, try to get it off the sidewalk. And then we have a list of kind of where all of those are as a pilot project. And then I overlaid where the bus routes are. We're hoping this can be kind of a first mile, last mile transit amenity as well. We've certainly tried to celebrate cycling. So we used to do a group ride, but then when COVID started, we turned that into a kind of go at your own pace and explore. So we just called it the Bike and Walk Downtown Holiday Showcase, trying to highlight some of the Vision Zero projects that I just discussed, plus some more. And then we had the artists that we partnered with there on site during certain hours. So people could just kind of walk or bike to each of those destinations and talk to the artists, et cetera. It was a big success. We also every year during either March or May, or sometimes both, Mayor Jane Castor has been a willing participant, and she leads a ride. Part of the goal of the Bike to Work ride and rally is pairing experienced cyclists with people who might need some advice on which routes to take, or maybe they're not comfortable biking in the street, et cetera. So we have 7 or 8 different starting points all around the downtown area. Those are all group rides and that converge into kind of a central park in our downtown. And we have exhibitors, et cetera, that we kind of have like a rally. We have some food, and there you can see Peter from FDOT here speaking to someone who's on a very interesting bike. We've had dogs, we've had kids, so that's been just kind of a fun celebratory ride. Of course, education is going to be key. Ken mentioned already, he stole my thunder, that Tampa's #1 in the country right now for the number of certified bicycle friendly businesses. We're very proud of that. We've worked really hard. You'll see the Pedal Power Promoters logo there. I hired a woman named Christina Costa who has really worked individually with these companies or buildings and talked about, what are they doing to educate their staff, their customers, where is the bike parking, what kind of, local advocacy can the business get behind, et cetera. So hoping to keep that up, but I hear Fort Collins is right on our tail as far as trying to pass us. And then I'll see if this will work. I'm going to show you just a quick video that I can talk through as well.
Downtown Partnership. March is Florida's Bike Month. We are proud to share that the city of Tampa is now #1 in the entire country for the number of certified bicycle friendly businesses. That ranges from big museums to restaurants to small nonprofits like Downtown Partnership. Hey, I'm Linda Raymond, President and CEO of the Tampa Downtown Partnership. Tampa's only platinum certified bicycle friendly business. Tampa Downtown Partnership leads in celebrating World Bike Month in a variety of ways, including annual events, convenient bicycling routes into downtown, and safety tips. We also advocate for better bike infrastructure and programs in downtown, including supporting the city of Tampa's Vision Zero. Some of the things that we've done to reach that status are bike valet at most of the large free events at the parks in our downtown. We've installed fix-it self-repair stations in several locations, and we put in over 250 bike racks, including some of the beautifully designed murals to go with.
Oops, sorry. I didn't mean for that to be replayed. Let me get out of that. Okay, so what we did, again, this was kind of a pivot during COVID, is we created some videos to celebrate Florida Bike Month and by highlighting the bicycle friendly businesses. We went to, I think, 4 different ones. This was the one I just showed you, was just kind of an overview, but those live on in our website. And then last, I wanted to go over just a couple planning moves. We try to be very data driven when possible. So we hired an engineering firm named Marlin. They focus on a lot of counting. Typically we only focus on vehicular counting, but we're trying to make it a best practice and build some awareness that we also need to be counting people walking and biking. So we partnered with them. We had 15 short-term non-motorized count locations. We did that in February and then again in August. This is one of the camera count visuals, and it was pretty interesting. This is Franklin Street. For those of you in Tampa, it's the block with the Tampa Theater. And basically what we found was that there's more people walking, biking, and scooting on this block of Franklin than there are driving. You see a lot of kind of mid-block crossings here. In this instance, it's a little 2-lane road with very calm, slow traffic. I think that's fine. But what this allowed us to do was advocate to the city to replace the traffic signal on the south end with a 4-way stop condition, which really is more convenient for pedestrians and less convenient for for the drivers. So we were happy about that, and I think this might lead to some more opportunities. We've also worked very hard over several years on a downtown parking plan that looks comprehensively at all issues related to parking. And I bring this up because you all know that parking needs to be factored into basically every transportation discussion that's happening. One of the graphs I asked our consultant to work on is a comparison of the green space we have in our downtown, which I think is pretty ample overall, to the amount of space we give over to car parking, both in surface lots, and the pink is the garages that we have. So quite shocking when you see where our priorities are in our downtown. We've also worked a lot on the parking codes. We had some success over the last year in basically reducing the amount of parking that new development is required to have. And then we also worked on basically outlawing crappy bike racks. I know you all have, probably 10 examples and, in your community that of just racks that just don't function well. So I'm happy that that's basically hopefully going to go away now. And then as far as planning goes, the city of Tampa, sorry about the fuzzy image here, but the city of Tampa is right now in a planning process called Tampa Moves. And part of that is developing a low stress bicycle network. As you can see some of the draft images here, and that will result in, I think, a published map as well as projects in the capital improvement program. And then in case you hadn't heard the exciting news, the city of Tampa also did win a federal build grant to build the Riverwalk on the west side of the river. So again, those of you in Tampa will be able to travel on foot or bike from basically Bayshore Boulevard the whole way up the West Bank, past the universities and schools, up to Columbus near Ricks on the River, and then back down the east side, which is most of it is in place right now. So it's going to be one of those game-changing moments for Tampa. So that's me. If you need to reach me, or you have ideas or something you saw in another city that you think would work well here, and then that's it. If you need to come, if you haven't already come to downtown Tampa, please do consider it. We've got a lot going on, and hopefully more to come. Thanks for the opportunity, Julie.
Thanks, Karen. That was a great presentation. And we do have a couple questions. So the first one is, can you talk more about what standards are being implemented for bike racks and what is being outlawed?
So, sorry, I just pulled down my slides, but it's a best practice to be able to lock your bike in two places, basically be able to lock the frame. So when you see a bike rack where you only see the bikes on either end, that's because they can't securely lock anywhere in the middle. So, a lot of times it's kind of that wave rack that's just not really going to work well for people. So it's not telling you which company you need to buy the racks from or anything like that. It's just making sure that you have something that you can securely lock a bike to. And then through the Bicycle Friendly Business Program, we try to explain to businesses that you need to plan for those transient people who are coming up to your building or your business to need to lock their bike. But then there's also the people who need to store their bike there for a work day. And where can they securely do that? Can they, have access to lockers, showers, etc.?
Right. Do you have any bike lockers in downtown Tampa? I get asked that question quite a bit, like something more secure than a rack.
No, we don't have any bike lockers, but a lot of the buildings do have a bike room, or they might be looking to host one.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a good solution for those who want a little bit more secure than a rack. And so finally, how can citizens get involved with your organization and help, make cycling better in downtown Tampa?
Well, I do have two committees that we have, just really, really good discussions, and we learn from the different agencies that are in the we have FDOT and the city and the county and the Expressway Authority and the Transit Agency, all reporting at our monthly transportation committee. And then we also have an urban design committee that probably digs a little bit more deeper into projects. For instance, our January meeting is going to be focused on some improvements underneath I-275. It's really kind of a bifurcation right now between the Central Business District and Tampa Heights. Thankfully, we have FDOT's ear right now on making some improvements. So, lighting, art, landscaping, those kinds of things. So the Urban Design Committee sinks its teeth in a little bit further.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And again, that was a great presentation. And thank you so much for contributing to our award ceremony.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to invite Bob Griendling and Julie Henning to turn their cameras on. And we are going to announce our 2022 award recipient of the Michael R. Schwaid Award. And so I'd like to introduce Bob. Bob is going to introduce Julie. And so a little bit about Bob. He was the 2021 award recipient, and he really has long been one of St. Pete's bike heroes. Many of you may know him. For years, he's served on St. Petersburg Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. He's also the former president of the St. Pete Bicycle Club. And again, he's was the 2021 Michael R. Schwaid Award recipient. So I'm going to turn the time now over to Bob. He's going to introduce Julie, and Julie's going to speak a little bit about why she has received this award. So Bob and Julie, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Julie. I first saw the name Julie Henning in the Tampa Bay Times. It was a story about a bike crash. And I learned from the article that she was descending a bridge on her bike on Gulf Boulevard. And according to the article, quoting, couldn't stop before hitting the garbage truck because she was riding downhill. And that's about all we knew about the crash. As you know, most stories about bike crashes, motorcycle crashes are very brief. And it seemed to me it was victim blame, as if it was her responsibility to stop in time. So I wanted to find out more. And I was able to contact Julie. And I believe when I did via email, Julie, you might have still been in the hospital. But we eventually met in person as she finally recovered, got out of her wheelchair that she was in for a couple of months. And when we met over lunch, I could see the emotional toll that the crash had on her, all because she couldn't stop. Of course, it was ultimately found out that it was the driver's fault. It was an all too common left hook. He turned in front of her. He had a long history of poor driving, and she had the right of way. We kept in touch, and then earlier this year, Julie asked me if I would help her organize a World Day of Remembrance event in Pinellas County. It's been going on in communities worldwide for 25 years, but one had never been held in Pinellas County. So we decided to go ahead, and we recruited others in the effort. But Julie throughout made clear what our mission was. We had a story to tell, but it wasn't a story with numbers and charts showing the trend in deaths and severe injuries to vulnerable road users. Rather, Julie wanted us to focus on the emotional toll of such crashes. We found other victims, both those injured and those left behind by fatal crashes, and they joined us. Julie worked tirelessly throughout the year to engage the mayor and others from Treasure Island, which Gulf Boulevard runs right through Treasure Island, and it's near where Julie lives. Though the date for World Day of Remembrance was the same date as a big event in the city, she convinced Treasure Island that this was important and that we needed to have this event, and they finally agreed. And we eventually planned another event in St. Pete, but it was through Julie's efforts with Treasure Island that we were able to get a start on the morning of November 20th. Her story really resonated with media, and we had a lot of media come out there. We had a lot of live shots in the morning and that kind of thing. But it resonated with victims and survivors. Julie's leadership in this effort was crucial in keeping all of us focused on what we wanted to achieve. And that was the recognition of the tremendous hardship escalating traffic violence causes not only for the victims, but their families and loved ones. And she's already planning to advocate in more ways for safe streets for all of us in the future. It's my honor to introduce Julie Henning as the Michael R. Schwaid Bicyclist of the Year. Congratulations, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate that in that introduction. And I also would like to thank Julie, Bond, Ken, and also Karen for all the work that you're doing on bicycle safety. I'm a citizen, and this bicycle safety has really come into focus in my life in the last couple years. And today I really want to share my story about why and what happened, and also what I'm doing just to spark change, which Bob has began to describe. So for me, I was an avid cyclist. I loved going on road tours. I did road touring for vacations. I was an avid mountain biker, but most importantly, I loved to cycle on the roads. I had a road bike. And it was part of my life. I did it a lot. I used my bicycle for commuting. I was an avid cyclist. And one Saturday morning, about 2.5 years ago, I was just woke up to start my day. I thought I would do a morning Saturday ride, 7:30 in the morning, not a whole lot of traffic, no sort of Monday through Friday work folks traveling to their work. And I was out in Pinellas County in a bike lane with minimal traffic, and my life changed. I was struck by a Madeira Beach garbage truck in a bicycle lane. That day changed my life forever. I was just doing a short 10 mile down, 10 mile back ride when I was struck, and I was immediately sent to Bayfront Hospital in St. Petersburg, where I was in the ICU for 5 days, in the hospital for over a month, 3 blood transfusions due to internal bleeding, a crushed pelvis, a traumatic brain injury with memory loss, multiple surgeries, including a very severely compound fracture on my leg, which I almost lost. But I was alive. I made it through and I was alive. After around 30 days, I was released from the hospital, where I was headed to a rehab center, but my family and friends came to the rescue to take care of me. I was wheelchair bound for about 4 months, where I couldn't actually live at my own house due to stairs. But I had friends that were willing to take me in, build wheelchair ramps, and did so much for me. It was a long journey, 1.5 years of physical therapy. There was speech therapy associated with memory loss, and emotional therapy. To this day, sirens get me. We all think of sirens as being going to the rescue to help someone. And for me, it brings back memories of maybe someone is going through what I went through. So, really medically, that's PTSD. So as you can tell, the issue has changed my life forever, and I feel very grateful. Having a near-death experience really does change your perspective on life and make you think about, you never know how long you have and what may come. And because of those experiences, I just don't want that to happen to other people. I don't want it. It just breaks my heart when I hear of these road crashes with cyclists, with pedestrians. And all too often here in the Tampa Bay area, I hear of them almost every day. and it's really hard to hear. And so I needed to do something. I needed to do something to spark some change. If I could only help one person or one family that had to deal with the trauma that my friends and family had to deal with, what I had to deal with, that's enough. It's good enough. So I decided that I wanted to put on a World Day of Remembrance here locally within our community. I first went to Bob and I said, Bob, will you help me do this? And he said, yeah. And we got a group of us together and we put on 2 events this year. It was the first 2 events here locally. One out on the beach in Treasure Island and one in St. Petersburg. And the idea was this occurs around the country. And the idea really is about supporting those that have been impacted. It's also about acting and about creating change. And lastly, it's about awareness. And at this point in my recovery of the accident, it was really focused around supporting others that have been involved in something that I've been involved, or being the voice of those that couldn't be here any longer. And it was also about beginning to create awareness that this happens to too many people. If it doesn't happen to one of us, it happens, we know someone, a neighbor, a family member, a friend that has been impacted by a road crash. It's not just cyclists, it's pedestrians too. But as we look forward, there's so much room for improvement in so many areas. And so this year it was really about focusing around slowing down and about reducing distractions. As we all know here in this community, speed and distracted drivers can be deadly. So that was some common themes that we had, bringing people out to talk about it, creating awareness, creating support, and some simple messages. So, I would look to all of you, if you want to utilize this forum in the future for creating change, I'm open to it. Because I think, there's so much we need to do to create change. It will take all of us. So for tonight, I just want to say I'm so honored to receive this award. It means the world to me. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Julie. We are so glad you're here. We're honored to present this award to you. And your words are really impactful for everyone. I'd like to now invite all the other Michael Schwaid Award recipients to turn their cameras on and to congratulate Julie and welcome her in to this group of amazing advocates who are making change.
Welcome, Julie.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So what we're going to do now is I have some questions and we're going to have a short panel discussion and kind of talk about what this amazing group is going to do and how we're going to make some impact. As Julie said, how we're going to spark change. So the first question I'll pose, and each one of you can answer this, is something about our area, because we all love to bicycle, right? So where is your favorite place to bike in the Tampa Bay area? And each one of you can just answer, kind of open things up, and where do you like to bicycle?
Well,
Julie, do you want to start?
who's
I'm
that?
sorry, who?
Julie,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say Julie should lead us off.
yes.
Yeah, so for me, I am, I told you at the beginning and shared that I really love to ride on the road in the past. And I have gotten back on the bike, and I'm really proud to say that. But I do not ride on the road. So one of my favorite places to ride is the Upper Tampa Suncoast Trail, because it's a really nice paved trail. It's relatively safe, and it's off the road.
Great. We do have some great trails here. And Bob, do you want to follow? I think you started answering.
Yeah, I didn't learn my lesson. I'm back on the road. And no, in St. Pete here, we have somewhat limited areas to ride. That is areas where we don't have traffic lights and stop signs every block or so. But we do have a southern route down around Pinellas Point and through a golf course. We have rides daily that go through that. But really, my favorite ride is, when I eventually get back in shape, is to ride down to Fort DeSoto. Because once you hit Fort DeSoto, you could go 20 miles and have only one stop sign. So that's a pretty nice route.
Did anyone else would like to share?
Sure.
I'll
I
go.
think
Oh.
not everybody at once. Go ahead, Pauline.
So I like to off-road, and I've been doing more off-roading, but one place I really like to ride, because I can actually ride my road bike and my mountain bike, is at the Flatwoods Wilderness Preserve. It does get boring doing laps out there, but you have this sense of safety, and the best time is at dawn and dusk, because there's so many critters. And then, like I said, I can also ride my mountain bike. So I kind of, I don't have to just ride my road bike. So that's probably like my favorite place to ride.
Okay, David?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. I used to be a professional cyclist. Now I'm trying to keep up with all the pros. I'm still a Cat 1. And, before I started working at DOT and having a full-time job, actually doing advocacy with you guys over at CUTR, and now I'm at DOT, I rode everywhere, it'd be 100-mile days after 100-mile day after 100-mile day. So to me, it was just whatever I can do that's different and new, have a new adventure. Like to ride down the Gulf Boulevard down to St. Pete, and go down to the, down the Bayway and everything down to Fort DeSoto. Or, if you're really feeling up to it, ride up to San Antonio, and the riding up there is just beautiful in the hills. And, even going out east is beautiful. As soon as you get out of town, there's a bunch of farms and all sorts of good area out there as well. So, we've got a lot of beautiful roads. And Courtney Campbell Causeway, if you're just trying to stay on a trail, is beautiful along the water. That was where I was heading when I got hit. Seems like a common theme on this. We've all almost had some bad times here, but I can't emphasize enough how much I enjoyed your story, Julie, and thank you for being here today, and congratulations. I think it hit home for all of us, and your bravery, and we really appreciate it. So hopefully we can continue to work together. We've got a really strong group here.
And Steve?
Yeah, Julie, I have to echo that. It's amazing that you're back on a bike after the experience you had. And I can certainly understand why you would be a little reluctant to get back on the roads. I've often wondered about that myself, because for anybody who's watching this or listening in, getting this award, it's not required that you have a horrific bike crash. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened to me. So I've had some bike crashes, but nothing like that at all. So I still like riding on the road. Maybe I just haven't learned because it hasn't happened to me. But I've seen some bike crashes, in the groups that I ride in, actually with cars, not just the bicycle to bicycle stuff. And it is hard to watch. The fact that we actually do this for our health, and then we see all this happening and people get hurt, that sort of thing. It speaks to our love for the sport. So for me, I really like riding on the road because of the fact that you really can go for a lot of miles in some cases and see some great scenery. But you have to get out of town. For me, Temple Terrace, Dover, that area, Plant City, hasn't really grown up as much. So that's my favorite place. Like David said, you have to get on the outskirts. So it's sort of like San Antonio, but with little tiny hills, and they're sort of few and far between. So not quite as much of a challenge, and still some great scenery.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Those are some great places to ride in our area. And we do have trails and all types of different infrastructure here. So moving along, what is your one greatest safety concern in the area? So if you had one safety concern that maybe we could look at solving, what is your greatest safety concern?
Well, if I can start off, I think that a lot of the problems interacting with cars is really a problem of ignorance. I know we've all had drivers who are aggressive with us, but they're not the ones that worry me because they see us. It's the ones that make a mistake. They look at you on the right side of the road and think, oh, I can squeeze by. There's nobody coming in the other lane, so I can squeeze by there. Then all of a sudden somebody is in the other lane, coming the other way. And it's too late. They don't have enough room. And it's people who don't realize that looking at your phone for 5 seconds, and if you're going, I think I read something like 35 miles an hour, you can cover a football field that 5 seconds. And that's 5 seconds you're not looking at the road. And people just don't understand the decisions they make and how it can, in a split second, result in a horrific crash. So if we could just educate people to educate motorists to what's the safe way of driving, and for that matter, to educate cyclists. I'm a fan of Cycling Savvy's approach. I think most of the roads around here, we should take the middle of the lane, because that way they don't make that mistake that I can squeeze by. Cars see you when you're in the middle of the lane, because a lot of times if you're on the right-hand side of the lane, they don't see you. They don't see you when they come up to an intersection, crossing your path, and they're looking for big hunks of metal in either direction, and they don't look for you. But if you're in the middle of the lane, they can see you. So I think we can educate both bike riders and pedestrians, for that matter, and motorists. And if we can do that, I think that would help a lot.
Great, thanks, Bob. Would anyone else like to add to that?
Well, I would agree that probably is our biggest concern: distracted drivers, as well as those who just really don't take into account we have people pass us all the time going the same direction. We're in a bike lane, driver passes us and makes a right turn because I think in most cases they're not doing it to be malicious. I think in most cases they just don't realize how fast we're going. And they think that they're well past us and all of the right hook. And I've never seen a crash happen that way in person, but I've seen I've seen a lot of almosts. Yeah, well, it happens a lot. I think because it happens so often, we sort of expect it, we sort of look out for it, and, watch out for right turners is what, I would always yell out if we're approaching an intersection or if a car has just passed us or something like that. So is that how your crash happened, David?
No.
Okay.
For me, I was actually riding in to the right in the lane, and a car turned left and didn't see me, and I wasn't able to stop in time. So they turned left and took me into an apartment complex. It was in Gulf to Bay Boulevard. It was like riding to the causeway. I lived right there, a mile from the causeway. And, I could have ridden 2 or 3 miles to ride up to Drew and cut back, or the Coachman Trail, and avoid that section. But, I ride every day, and I was just going to the causeway like I normally do. That extra 2 miles that I avoid, well, I didn't do it that day. And the car just didn't see me and just made that quick left-hand turn from the suicide lane, I guess.
Right.
It was, what's crazy is, I don't really remember much of it at all. I had zero pain, it's kind of woke up in the hospital, like similar story. It's like 5 days later, the first thing I saw was, 35,000 people had shared a GoFundMe page that my wife didn't even really want. She was like, we're good, we don't want the support. And everyone was like, no, we want to help. He's a cyclist. We know he's not super rich, and there's going to be a lot of things that he's going to have to deal with. And sure enough, it was like the bottom insurance from the driver and myself. So that really helped with a lot of follow-up surgeries that my insurance didn't cover. It's a long road.
Right.
But I'll give some good news. We're putting in we're closing down the suicide lane and putting in some barriers, some coming projects I just saw. They put some in there too. It's a 6 lanes, 3 lanes in both direction with the center twiddle, 2-way left turn lane. I was joking, a twiddle doesn't sound very dangerous, but a suicide lane does. So that's good. So that was one of the good news is lately that I've seen that we've been able to do thanks to access management. And there's already a few out there in that area as well. So, it'll help, because at least then when you go into that center lane to turn left, you can't just drive along in there and decide to turn at the last minute in a 45-mile-an-hour road.
Dave, I think you being with FDOT is going to be great, because at the end of the day, we got to design roads so that people can't make bad decisions. So whatever you can do, designing the roads is probably the easiest thing that we can do and the most effective thing. So keep at it.
It's not easy, because there's there's always a million different things holding back every decision. And I'm trying, the good news is whenever I see a problem, I look at it, I know the answer before I've even had to think about it, just intuitively as a cyclist being out there on the roads. I mean, you kind of know what would fix the problems, what's causing these fatal and severe crashes intuitively. So it's nice to have that background information and, just kind of go into it, and we're doing what we can to get there. It's one little project at a time. And a lot of support from you guys as well. So it goes a long way.
Well, great.
Yeah, but as far as the one point that I would say right now, my number one that hasn't been mentioned is speed. Just, at 20 miles an hour, you'll most likely survive, but at 30 miles per hour, you most likely won't. So I've worked a lot on target speed and all of the common resurfacing projects, trying to figure out ways to lower the speed, the design speed. And I think it's not easy, but that's a big thing that we can do and we can continue to push for.
Great. Well, thank you. We are running out of time. So what I would like to do is I have one more question, and I'll have each one of you answer it. So our final question is, what gives you the most hope for safe cycling in the future? And again, we'll start out, Julie, if you want to answer that. What really gives you the most hope for our area for safe cycling?
I think it's at this point, there's really an awareness starting to happen which I think is going to lead to change. But I think it all starts with really awareness, talking about it. The news media is really starting to pick it up, and we're hearing about it more and more. And all of us key in on it, but it's going to take the general public. It's going to take people that don't cycle to really be aware and to care about the issue. So that's what gives me hope.
Oh, that's great. Yes, that does. And that is great. Pauline, what about you? What gives you hope?
I guess what gives me hope is having people like David and my husband, who are both road design engineers and who have a cycling background, that are, young in the profession and have the awareness, I guess just have the cycling awareness of designing these roads to be safer. Because, where we live in Wesley Chapel, it's like a lot of new development, and I'll ask them, like, why didn't they put a bike lane in? And he's like, I don't know, it has to do with the people who are developing the area. So yeah, so it's just having people like David and Matt, as engineers designing our roads, just makes me feel like, okay, well, maybe, they're, are going to be putting in new trails, like the Tampa Bypass Canal Trail. Hopefully that gets passed, for us to have safer ways of traveling and riding our bikes.
Great. Yes, that does, I think, give us all hope, seeing some of the engineers, and especially those who are cyclists, and how they're moving forward with that. Engineering makes such a huge difference. Okay, let's see. David, did you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. I kind of want to echo that point. So I joined the department in 2019, Department of Transportation, and everything I heard from everyone, my dad has been a bike advocate since early 90s. So I've been around it my whole life. He worked for DOT. And everything I've heard from everyone I've talked to is, in the last 5 or 10 years, safety has become the biggest priority at DOT and at all of these different organizations that we've heard from today. And it's really been a shift. It's been a pendulum, and everyone just keeps telling me I'm lucky I got here at just the right time, where, everyone's really pushing for safety. And unfortunately, it's hard to undo what's been done for the past 30 years or hundreds of years, whatever. But I do think it gives me a big sense of hope to see that every single decision we make is factored in. We are working our absolute hardest. I don't think there's anyone at DOT anymore that doesn't factor safety into a decision. So that gives me a huge hope. Like I said, there's a lot of factors that go into every decision, and there's a lot of constraints, and it's just not easy, but every single decision, it is getting factored in, and groups like this really help to make it worth it, so thank you.
Great. Okay, and Bob?
Well, I gain hope because I think people, even those who may not be avid cyclists, the younger generation in particular seems to want a different kind of lifestyle than those of us in the boomer group. They want to live in vibrant communities. They want a lifestyle that includes a lot of walking and bicycling and scootering around. They appreciate the time that they get by shortening their commute and not having to sit in the car for an hour instead of work. So I think that they wanting that kind of lifestyle is going to help change things. They're going to be the voice of change. And as David mentioned, I've talked to a number of FDOT engineers, and it really is quite remarkable how they are now factoring in safety as they have never done before. So I think that the younger generation is going to help change. I think we have now the ear of city councils and county commissioners and groups like forward Pinellas, CUTR, and others that are doing the work that helps send that message out. That we need safe communities, we need vibrant communities. And vibrant communities are ones where people are outside, they're not inside their metal box. So I think that gives me hope that they will be the impetus for change.
Great, thank you. And Steve, you were the first recipient, so we'll end with you.
Okay, well, I think probably the thing that gives me the greatest hope is groups like this, because this is how we get the word out. It's not just one person talking to one other person, but one person talking to a bunch of people. And you have advocacy groups like CUTR and Bike Florida doing things that are keeping this in the the eyes of the citizens. So, I see new bike lanes. I get pretty excited about that. Well, I see new pavement on roads, whether it's a bike lane or not, we get pretty excited about that. But certainly we see protected bike lanes. And while that may not be the perfect solution, because, we've run into, not literally, but seen things that are obstacles in some of those protected bike lanes that aren't getting swept as much as regular roads. So I'll talk to David about that later. Maybe he's got some suggestions on who to contact. But it's a step in the right direction when you see municipalities spending a lot of extra money to try to make bike lanes more plentiful and wider and safer. That's pretty big. Just since in the last 5 years, I can name a number of places where we've seen improvements like that. So I like that it's not just an afterthought now. So new roads are starting to get bike lanes as part of the process. So that gives me hope.
Great. Well, this has been a great panel discussion, and we have some plans for the future. We are going to meet, and we're going to invite the community to be part of our group. And so I think we have really some great things to look forward in 2023. So again, Julie, we just want to thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I really see change ahead for this area, and it gives me hope to work with all of you. So that's what I'm really excited about, is looking into the next year and working with all of you. Before you go, we have just a couple little announcements. Let's see, Vanessa, if you can go to the next slide. Save these dates. Ken with the Bike Lead invites you all to the 2023 National Bike Summit. That's in Washington, D.C. Lots of great information. You can actually attend online. So lots of great sessions. We're going to announce the Michael R. Schwaid Memorial Ride. We don't have the date yet, but we'll announce that. Again, the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims is November 19th. World Car Free Day is September 22nd. Florida Bike Month is March 2023. And then again, the League's National Bike Month is all of May. So save those dates and join us. Also, I have to talk about a little bit, I have a 1-hour course that is free for anyone who wants to take. It's called Shifting the Narrative, How to Prevent Bicyclist and Pedestrian Deaths. And so that is a course anyone can take, and it really talks about how our words matter and how we can work together to shift that narrative. Okay.
Great.
Next slide.
Thank you.
And I guess that is the end of our slideshow. So again, thank all of you. And this was recorded, and we'll be sending out the recording. And again, everyone have a happy holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing all of you again next year, or even for the remainder of the year. We might see you out on the trails or the roads or in the mountains, the somewhat mountains, right, Polly? So thank you again.
Congratulations again, Julie Henning.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. Congratulations again. This was a really nice.
Thank you.
Look forward to meeting you, Julie.
Look forward to meeting all you. Let's work together.
All right. Very good.
And thank you, Vanessa, for being behind the scenes and making this go smoothly. So thank you so much, Vanessa. And to all of our speakers. It was so great.